Okay, welcome to the deep dive. Have you ever, found yourself wondering what truly happens? Behind the kitchen doors, I mean.
Oh, yeah. When a master chef, like a really top chef, encounters food that's just, well, memorably bad.
Exactly. Like legendary for being awful.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to dive into an incredible collection of audio clips.
From Gordon Ramsay, right. Very famous, very direct.
Very direct, sometimes very animated chef. Yes.
Uh-huh.
The source is basically a compilation of his critiques from visiting all sorts of restaurants.
Okay.
And our mission really is to pull out the important nuggets, the insights.
Not just what went wrong with the food itself.
Right, not just that. We want to look at the underlying ingredients, sure, but
Mm.
also attitude, what leads to this sort of widespread culinary failure.
Looking for patterns, maybe? Those aha moments?
That's it. The patterns, the surprising insights into what makes food truly terrible, and importantly, how people react when they're told it's terrible.
That reaction part is often just as telling as the food itself.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's start where the experience often begins, with the eyes.
Makes sense. Visuals first.
Because sometimes, honestly, the sheer visual horror
Yeah.
tells you everything you need to know before you even take a bite.
It really can set the tone, can't it?
Totally. Like, picture
Yep.
this, a salmon pinwheel. Ramsay said it looked like a door opener.
A door opener, seriously.
Yeah. And apparently it fit perfectly on the side of my tomato. Just imagine seeing that on your plate.
Wow. It's incredible, isn't it? And what's really insightful there, I think, isn't just that presentation matters,
Uh-huh.
but why it sometimes crumbles so badly when a dish looks, chaotic or just plain unappetizing.
Yeah.
It often signals that the chef has sort of emotionally detached from the craft.
Like they've stopped caring.
Exactly. Stop caring about that first impression. And that's often the first sign of a deeper issue, maybe in the kitchen culture or even leadership.
That makes sense. And it gets worse, visually speaking. Remember the lasagna?
Vaguely.
Huh?
Refresh my memory.
Described as vile, embarrassing. It had this weird pink sauce.
And kicks off. Okay.
And then later, after it got dropped, apparently it looked like canned dog food.
Oh my goodness, right. And there was that Greek sampler too?
Yes, the great sampler. He
Mhm.
called it ghastly, like a canned sampler.
Or something from a dog food bowl, wasn't that the quote?
That was it. Containing, apparently, canned salmon caviar mixed with some mashed potatoes.
Oh, canned caviar with mashed potatoes.
No.
That imagery, like the canned dog food lasagna or the dog's dinner snapperana he mentioned elsewhere, it's not just Ramsay being dramatic, is it?
Doesn't sound like it.
No, it communicates a complete lack of care. Or maybe even a lack of understanding of what food should look like.
A visual betrayal.
Exactly. It basically says, we don't respect this food, or you, or frankly ourselves.
Yeah.
Think about your own dining experiences. How much does that first look immediately shape your expectations? Your enjoyment, even?
Oh, hugely. That first glance can just contaminate the whole meal before it starts.
Absolutely.
Which often sets the stage, doesn't it, for the next betrayal? The fundamental one. Taste.
Right. This is where it gets really, really interesting.
Yeah, when flavor goes wrong. And not just a little off, but like profoundly wrong.
Fundamentally broken.
Take that salmon, for instance, the pinwheel one. Despite having some fancy aged balsamic reduction,
Mm-hmm.
no seasoning, lacked salt. Just basic salt.
Wow. And wasn't there a soup, too?
Yep. Soup of the day described simply as under-seasoned. And pan-fried oysters, same thing. No seasoning.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's more than just forgetting the salt shaker, isn't it?
Seems that it has to be.
It's about understanding almost the science of flavor layering, how salt brightens things up, how acid cuts through richness, how fat carries aromas.
The fundamentals.
Exactly. These critiques suggest kitchens where the chefs either lack that basic grasp, or maybe they're just not tasting their own food critically as they cook.
Which seems unbelievable, but
It points to a foundational breakdown, I think.
it's really shocking. And the list goes on. Collard greens that were just tasteless.
Mm-hmm.
A dreadful sauce on some beef and veggie patties. And, oh, the jerk chicken.
Let me guess. Bland.
Worse. Not an ounce of seasoning.
Yeah.
Utterly, utterly bland. Bland as F was the quote, I believe.
Right. Then you get the opposite extreme, too, sometimes.
Like the lamb lollipop
Yeah.
with that hideous roasted garlic jam.
Yeah, what was wrong with that one?
Apparently sweet as anything. Like eating a spoonful of sugar. Just pure sweetness overwhelming everything.
Ugh, total imbalance.
And the French onion soup. Absolutely tasteless. Like,
Mm.
get this, Dregs from the dishwasher.
Ouch! That's harsh, but paints a picture.
Very, very bland. Just nothing there.
You know, that clash over the jerk chicken you mentioned is actually quite interesting.
The one the chef defended?
Yeah. The chef insisted it was authentic Jamaican style, being dry, but Ramsay's take was just blunt, dry, and inedible.
A total disagreement.
It's more than just taste preference, though. It highlights a critical disconnect, I think.
How so?
Well, when a chef clings to this idea of authenticity, even when the result is clearly unpalatable to the diner and ignores that feedback,
Yeah.
it shows an inability to adapt or maybe even to acknowledge that there's a shared standard for what's, edible food.
Right. Like, authenticity shouldn't mean inedible.
Exactly. That gap between their personal belief and just basic palatability, that's where a lot of these places seem to fail.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And speaking of failing, let's talk texture. The texture nightmares.
Yeah, the feel of the food. Equally important.
Totally. From rubbery to soggy, these dishes sounded just unpalatable.
Texture gone wrong is just viscerally unpleasant.
Right. Those beef and veggie patties. Besides the sauce, they had raw and soggy pastry.
Raw pastry.
And those tasteless collard greens, also overcooked and just mush.
Double failure.
Yeah.
Tasteless and mushy.
And the jerk chicken we keep coming back to, besides being bland, it was dry as hell and overcooked.
Dry, overcooked, and unseasoned. Wow.
And quite the trifecta.
It really is.
Then there was an eggplant roll. Crunchy eggplant. Undercooked, basically raw.
Undercooked eggplant is just not good. Spongy and bitter.
And a chicken tellini pasta salad that apparently tastes like rubber and was stone cold.
Rubber chicken. Lovely. Probably old. Reheated badly.
Sounds like it. And a seafood pasta futar, or fruit de mar. It was called just mush. Way overcooked.
Overcooked pasta is the worst.
With mussels taste like old... I think he meant mussels tasting like old tires or styrofoam, maybe.
Oh, dear. And the shrimp.
Way overcooked and gray. Just totally ruined seafood.
Such a waste. Seafood is so delicate.
And remember the lamb lollipop with the sugary sauce?
Yeah. Texture issues there, too.
Apparently undercooked, raw, and it's obviously cold in the middle because it hasn't rested.
So raw and cold, basic technique failure again, no resting time.
Exactly. Then a fish dish, tamalani, like soaking wet newspaper, but also so dry. How is that even possible?
Wet and dry. Maybe the fish was dry and the wrapping was soggy. Just guessing. Sounds awful either way.
Truly. A steak burrito, like eating wet cardboard with gyuji steak, maybe meant chewy or gristly.
Wet cardboard. Appetizing.
Queso fundido,
Huh?
greasy mess, and rubbery.
Greasy and rubbery cheese.
Yeah.
Never a good combo.
Then there was the toughest and the most chewiest film I've ever tasted. I think he meant filet mignon.
Toughest filet mignon. That takes some doing. Usually it's tender.
And veal Sinatra, chewy. Apparently they'd lost all the texture when they pounded the veal too much, maybe.
Yeah, you can definitely overpound veal. Make it tough and stringy.
A seafood crave, which turned out to be crayfish, overcooked to S, absolutely chewy as anything.
Overcooked crayfish is like chewing rubber bands.
And finally, even a Caesar salad wasn't safe. Soaking wet lettuce.
Wet lettuce.
So wet the dressing just ran off. When it should be crisp but dry before dressing, basic salad making.
You know, all these texture fails, it really drives home a point.
Which is?
Texture isn't just some minor detail. It's fundamental to whether we enjoy food or even find it edible. And when you see these kinds of consistent failures, soggy, raw, rubbery, mushy, overcooked, it points directly to a profound lack of basic cooking skill.
Or understanding the ingredients.
Yeah, or just a complete absence of care in the kitchen. These aren't subtle mistakes. They're foundational errors.
Right. They make the food genuinely unpleasant.
Or even impossible to eat. Have you ever had food that just felt wrong in your mouth, texture-wise?
Oh, for sure. It's immediately off-putting.
Exactly. It's a sense we often take for granted until it's completely messed up.
Yeah. It's a total turnoff. And it's not just the food itself that's failing in these clips.
Now we get to the human element.
Exactly. These clips really pull back the curtain on the human side of the chaos.
Yeah.
And it's a masterclass in denial, defensiveness, and sometimes, frankly, dishonesty.
The reactions when confronted.
Precisely. Remember Ree, the chef with the salmon
The
pinwheel?
door opener salmon.
Yeah. She actually stood up for her food, despite how bad it sounded.
Yes.
Said it was one of my favorite things on our menu.
Wow. Just completely doubling down.
Total denial.
That's a classic defense mechanism, isn't it? Cognitive dissonance kicking in hard.
Seems like it.
What's truly fascinating here psychologically, is how people handle criticism, especially criticism that direct.
Yeah.
You see ego flare up, you see denial, you see this complete inability to accept accountability.
Why do you think that is?
Well, often these chefs or owners, their identity is so wrapped up in being a culinary master or a successful business owner
Mm-hmm.
that admitting a flaw, especially a fundamental one, feels like a deep personal failure. It's too painful.
So they shut down.
Right. It cripples their ability to actually listen, learn, and adapt. That psychological barrier is huge. It actively prevents them from improving.
It really seems to. Like Chef Rocky, who gave his own food 10 out of 10.
A perfect score. For food, Ramsay was clearly finding fault with.
Yeah, Ramsay said it felt like he was talking to a brick wall.
I can imagine. And what about Dr. Boris, the one with the jerk chicken?
Oh, him. He didn't just defend it. He got aggressive. Adamantly defended his dry jerk chicken and actually challenged Ramsay's knowledge.
Challenged Gordon Ramsay on food. Bold move.
Very bold. What does that kind of defiance tell you? Is it just pure stubbornness?
It can be stubbornness, sure, but often it goes deeper. That level of defiance, it can signal a fundamental breakdown of trust.
Trust with who? The
Yeah.
customer.
With the customer, yes, but often it reflects internal issues too. A breakdown of trust within the staff, maybe. It's like a poison that spreads.
Like the owner of Yahi Tower.
What happened there?
He wasn't even in the kitchen, just seen standing there hanging out and chilling out. Total disengagement.
Okay, absentee owner.
But then, when confronted about the tuna, he first claimed it was fresh, then later admitted it is frozen tuna.
Ah, so not just denial, but outright deception, lying about the core product.
Exactly. That's a whole other level.
It really is. It moves beyond ego protection into dishonesty.
And it seems like this lack of listening isn't always just the head chef or owner.
Internal communication issues.
Sounds like it. We heard Genevieve, maybe a server or manager, complaining that the chef, Tatiana, doesn't really listen to any of us about shrimp that was going bad.
So the staff knew there was a problem, but couldn't get the chef to listen. That's critical.
Yeah. And Martin, another chef, his vinaigrette was too vinegary. Simple fix, right?
Should be. Taste and adjust.
His defense. We've been running this food for many years. That makes it okay.
The old, we've always done it this way excuse. Deadly for a restaurant.
And then adding another layer, a server commented that Martin doesn't listen to me and has an issue taking anything from a female, hinting at a chauvinistic stance.
Oof. Okay, so now you potentially have sexism impacting food quality because feedback isn't being heard.
It's crazy, isn't it, the different dynamics at play?
Those examples really spotlight those internal communication failures. When staff can't voice concerns or when a chef's ego or worse, their biases stops them from taking valid feedback.
It's a recipe for disaster.
Absolutely. Problems just fester. If things don't get fixed, morale probably tanks.
And then there's the infamous chef mic.
Ah, yes. The microwave.
Pearl, a chef, actually admitted using Chef Mike for chimichangas for 1 minute, just nuking them.
Oh, boy.
And apparently Chef Mike was considered a dedicated employee doing a lot of work in the kitchen.
A dedicated employee.
Behind.
Chuckle.
Yeah, for things like lasagna, lamb shank, moussaka, all getting the microwave treatment.
Wow. That just perfectly sums up the loss of pride, doesn't it? The shift from actual cooking to just reheating. Assembly line food.
It really does. Chef Mike, working overtime.
Busy guy.
But then you get chefs like Greg. He got called out for bad cochinita, a pork dish.
And his response?
Pure blame shifting. I do it exactly how she says every time I do it. So if it's not working, well, then you come back here and do it. Basically blaming the recipe owner.
Taking zero responsibility himself.
None. And then he complained about the tools. The kitchen was old, too tiny, too hot. Always an external excuse.
That's another classic sign, isn't it? Blaming circumstances, tools, other people. Anything but looking at their own process or skill.
Yeah. And we saw that defiance escalate sometimes too.
Right.
Like Eric the chef.
What did he do?
He flat out said, my food is good, and if he critiques it, I'm going to probably throw it at him.
Threatening to assault Ramsay over a food critique?
Apparently. And he found plastic in his crab cakes.
Plastic. Oh, no.
Eric's response, I have no idea where that plastic came from. Total denial. And even though the restaurant was visibly empty,
Yeah.
he claimed he got a lot of compliments. Just living in a different reality.
Creating his own echo chamber where everything's fine despite all evidence to the contrary. Dangerous for a business.
And sometimes a lack of care just seemed profound. Joe, an owner, would apparently just sit there most of the night at the bar.
Checked out.
Totally. Admitted he'd given up.
Sad, really.
And Cece, the chef who just refused to cook anymore for Ramsay.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one. What was her reasoning again?
She said, "There's starving people in the world, and if I have to keep making food to go in the garbage, I don't want to make any more."
Wow. Using world hunger as an excuse not to cook food that's being rejected for being bad.
Right. And it just declared a complete breakdown of professionalism.
That kind of attitude, that defeatism mixed with outright hostility, it really shows the core passion is just gone.
Yeah, the passion for hospitality, for cooking.
It's completely eroded. The goal becomes just surviving the shift, not actually producing quality food or a good experience.
It's a stark reality of a business in decline.
Very much so. And there were other defensive lines too, weren't there? Like the pizza comment?
Oh, right. The chef who dismissed Ramsay's pizza critique by saying he is British, she doesn't know anything about the pizza.
The nationality defense. As if being British disqualifies you from tasting pizza.
Or the cook who, regarding old ribs, just said, whatever, send it. Just send it out.
Just pure apathy. It doesn't care about quality or safety. Send out the old food. Scary.
And Frank, the chef who apparently just lost all confidence after the Caesar salad incident.
The wet lettuce salad.
Yeah. Sometimes the criticism hits so hard, they just crumble, it seems.
It's a tough environment for sure. But that inability to handle feedback constructively is the common thread.
Absolutely. Which brings us, finally, to a category that's, well, it goes beyond bad taste or bad texture. It's outright alarming.
Okay, what's this?
The shocking discoveries. Things that compromise food safety and basic integrity.
Right, like the plastic you mentioned.
Exactly. In one case, that lasagna wasn't just vile. It had something slightly synthetic and plastic inside that tastes absolutely hideous.
Synthetic and plastic tasting. In lasagna. Good grief.
I know.
If we, connect that to the bigger picture.
Yeah.
These kinds of incidents, finding foreign objects or getting chemical tastes,
Yeah.
they highlight the absolute non-negotiables of food service. Safety. Quality control.
It's a total breach of trust.
Completely. These aren't just simple mistakes like oversalting. They point to fundamental failures in hygiene or proper ingredient handling, or maybe just basic oversight.
Makes the food not just bad, but potentially dangerous.
Exactly. And it wasn't a one-off, right? You mentioned the crab cakes, too.
Yeah, the ones Chef Eric denied knowing about. Ramsay found plastic bits of crap running through there.
More plastic.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it, what might be going on in other kitchens that, don't have cameras rolling.
It does make you think. These moments are just stark reminders of how crucial diligence and care are, not just for flavor, but for basic safety.
Absolutely critical. So, after diving through all this, what does it all mean for us? What's the takeaway?
Well, it seems pretty clear, doesn't it?
Yeah, our deep dive into all these critiques, it really reveals a consistent pattern, I think. Culinary failure. It's rarely just one thing.
Not just one bad ingredient or one clumsy mistake.
No, it's more like a complex stew, maybe. A mix of poor training, maybe misguided priorities, definitely an inability to take feedback, and quite often, it seems, just a complete breakdown of passion and care.
Right. The visual disasters, the flavor fails, the texture traumas, they're all symptoms.
Symptoms of those deeper issues. And then compounded by that human element, we talk so much about the denial, the defensiveness, the lack of accountability.
It all ties together.
It really does.
This brings up an interesting question, maybe for you, our listener, to think about.
Okay.
Given everything we've heard about the ingredients, the cooking methods, but especially about that complex human element behind all these disasters,
Yeah.
what responsibility do you as a diner really have in discerning food quality? Are we just passive recipients, or do we play a role?
That's interesting. Our role as diners.
And maybe, in turn, how do you think your choices, where you eat, what you expect, maybe even the feedback you give or don't give, how does that impact the standards of the places you go to?
So our choice is influencing their standards.
Potentially. It's a dynamic relationship, right, between the restaurant and the customer, understanding that relationship, maybe thinking about our part in it. It might just change how you approach your next meal out. Something to chew on, perhaps.
Definitely something to chew on. Thanks for exploring that with us today.